I'm usually really good at names, but I biffed it. I was afraid I was going to do that. So Jenga, Sherry Jenga, thanks for coming on the show. Author of The Shattered Oak. Um, and so I read some of your notes and we talked a little bit offline. It's based on a true story. I'd love to hear a little bit more about you, what you do, what you've been up to, and your book, The Shattered Oak.
Sure. Thank you, Glenn. Thanks for having me on your podcast.
Of course.
What I've been up to, well, first I'll tell you a little about me. I'm married. I have two children, a boy and a girl. I'm very blessed. I've been married for 32 years and I've worked at Foxwoods Resort Casino here in Connecticut, the world's largest casino, for 28 years. And I'm a cocktail server in the High Roller Lounge. My background is really nothing too much, just I don't have a lot in writing, but believe it or not, it's a great true story that I was offered by this lady that I met, Nina Anderson. And she happened to hear my story that I was telling her, and she said, "Why don't you write it and I'll publish it?" She owns a publishing company, Safe Goods publishing company in Massachusetts. And I was lucky enough to get to tell the true story about the Shattered Oak.
Tell me, so what is so starting off the idea of the shattered oak, what does that mean, the shattered oak?
Great question. The Shattered Oak has a lot to do with shatteredness. Think of that, like your soul, the oak tree, about a one woman story. It's written in the first person about a woman who was very distressed, which I'll give you a little bit of insight. It's actually my mother. So the story was based upon my life, believe it or not, and my mother's story. And I was lucky enough to, be able to write it. I never thought it would be me writing her story, but it is such an interesting story. Ever since I've been about 18 years old, I knew it needed to be written or told into a story. I think a lot of people should know about it. It's about mental illness and how sometimes mental illness needs to be looked at in a different way, like to look outside the box. My mother's story was very unique. And sometimes, a lot of times, mental illness, you don't realize it could be a cure, like could be a disease instead. So I don't want to give away too much, I
Of
guess,
course.
because
Yeah.
it's a story too. It has a lot of plots and twists. But sometimes mental illness, we all need to ask our physicians once, twice, or three times to find out, could there be other underlying symptoms behind our mental illness?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of times we're told, what doesn't kill us makes us stronger. And a lot of times that could leave, what doesn't kill us could leave an underlying impact to us that could make us weaker, actually, down the line, if we don't seek help or kind of address it, talk about it, and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And there's so many, especially with the coronavirus and everything, there's so
Hmm.
much suicide. So the book kind of has one thing. I feel like a lot of people, if you look on my Amazon reviews, it touches a lot of aspects of a lot of people's lives that people don't even realize that it could impact them, because it touches on divorce, it touches on suicide, it touches on depression, it touches on mental illness, um, and about diseases, and how it gives a positive light on how anybody reading the story can find ways to enlighten their lives and find a way to move forward. So it also sheds a light on like journaling and how there's ways to cure um aspects of our lives to push forward and find a way to shed light in a positive light.
Yeah. Now I see you first released it in 2019.
Yeah, it came out in 2019, and then with the coronavirus, yep. So it's been out for about a year. Yeah.
Yeah. So how would you say you've been impacted, and you and your family, personally, professionally, artistically, creatively? How would you say you've been impacted by the last year and a half?
Oh gosh, yeah. It's been such trying time for a lot of people, and I think a lot of people take this coronavirus in a different aspect. Um, in a weird way, I find myself not lucky, but in kind of a weird way. I work at the casino and we're tribal. So we were open much more than the general public earlier.
Sure.
Because we're tribal, we were able to open our doors earlier than a lot of other companies. So at first, I have to say, yeah, sure, it was scary, opening up and
Yeah.
going to work. Um, but it also forces you, I think, in a good way to get up and get going. And um, I feel blessed that I was able to go to work, to be honest with you, because it made me not as fearful of the coronavirus in a weird way. We took great precautions at our work.
Hmm.
Um, but it got me out of my house, so where I feel like some people who were trapped a little bit more not going out and not knowing the unknown. Um, I feel I was a little bit more blessed in a weird kind of way going to work,
Yeah.
which
For it.
sounds a little bit crazy, but
Yeah.
I think it made me a little bit less fearful.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And again, blessed. That's a term that comes up on this show a lot. Is blessed, or it's hindsight. It's luck, or whatever you want to call it. But I like to call it blessed because I mean, I kind of have to read through the lines and hope that there is something more out there and all that. And I don't want to get too preachy, but I always had a mindset of looking at new technological trends, and like the new thing is podcasting on YouTube or live streaming, and these video gamers live streaming to Twitch, and then they have a big studio and all these crazy live streamed graphics just from their basement. And I was able to stay relatively employed throughout the whole quarantine, doing a lot of remote gigs, a lot of virtual webinars and remote virtual seminars, conferences. Like we talked. You're at the Foxwoods Casino Resort, and I've actually gone there and done all those banquets, those conferences, those seminars where you have some company, some organization do a 5 day. They got the grand ballroom, then they got like 10 breakouts, and they got all these different speakers. But then when quarantine hit, it was, what do we do with that? I said, hey, just get everybody on Zoom, and we
Mhm.
live stream it remotely, just from the same computer decks and the same streaming software, but just from the comfort of everybody's home or home office, or even from their work office, that only 5 or 10 people are at the office now. And we're able to still pull off those events. And again, blessed, I was able to do that from home. Me and the wife had brought home our first kid right before the quarantine hit, and
Wow.
so
Yeah, congratulations.
thank you. But we still had to stay employed. We still had to pay bills and all the baby expenses. So yeah, absolutely. Like, you know you feel blessed you're still able to go to work. Absolutely, you feel blessed to still be a part
No,
of
yeah,
general civilization, I guess.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. And it was a scary time, I guess. And a lot of us that pulled through, the most important thing was to see the positive in this. What can I do? If I'm stuck in the house, what can I do? Well, hell, I can refurbish the house. I got nothing but time now. For me, as a filmmaker, as a writer, um as an actor, there was a whole lot of projects that I had shot on a hard drive. It's time to edit them, and that sort of deal.
You give
And
it time to think, right? Think
yeah,
about
absolutely.
what was important, could we be grateful about, what do the next 20 years entail? Like it
Hmm.
definitely gave us time to think about what was important in life.
Yeah, and as a parent yourself, how old are your kids, if you don't mind me
Oh,
asking?
no, my daughter is 20 and my son is 24.
So when they were 1, 2, and 3, I remember, probably the same generation, when older folks told me about me growing up, they would mention, the first steps, the crawling, the first steps, the first word. But for us, since it was a 6 to 9 months of 24/7 shut in lockdown quarantine with our kid, we remember all the micro evolutions, the tummy time that kind of turned into, like wiggling, that, and his first roll over on his own, to kind of shimmying, which turned into a real crawl. And then, babbling turned into giggling, turned into cackling, turned into like real laughter, all the micro evolutions that we were able to enjoy. And I think there's another plus side to that shut in, to that 24/7
Yeah,
mom. Hmm?
you were blessed.
Yes, again, blessed, like that 24/7 mommy and daddy daycare.
Yeah.
It's really a blessing than it is a curse. And yeah, I'm sure there was a couple of times me and the wife butted heads a couple of times, but you just gotta, I'm a big fan of The Shining, so I just kept thinking of the movie The Shining, saying, hold on, slow down, don't turn into Jack Torrance just yet. It's not the it's not the end of the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
But it did give us time to think about what we wanted to do too, right? Like nature,
mhm.
outside, brought us a new perspective. I think with a lot of people, whether they moved or moved into a home instead of an apartment,
Yeah.
it brought us closer to hiking, biking, kayaking, and people started enjoying what life was really all about way back when before social media.
Mhm. Yeah. So with that in mind, have you been, I always ask folks, depending on the creatives that I have, have you been back out in the field you've been back out at work at the Foxwoods, but have you been out there doing book signings or meet and greets, events?
With the book, not as much as I probably I had a whole bunch of stuff lined up with Barnes and Noble, and they were shut down for so long. Um, I haven't reached back out to them. I figured I'd wait just a little bit longer till things kind of, it's almost, I don't know, are we back to almost normal? We're getting pretty close to it,
Yeah.
kind of so to say. I know with my work, we finally, if you got vaccinated, you could take off your mask. So I feel like I'd wait about another month or two before I reach back out to a lot of my contacts that I had before in the past.
Hmm.
I did have a lot of book signings and a lot of stuff at different Barnes and Nobles that unfortunately got canceled. I even had groups like in Kansas and stuff like that who read my book, and they created for suicide foundations, and there was supposed to be a lot of fundraising for suicide foundations, and with this whole coronavirus it got canceled, which was very sad because there was a lot that was happening with that.
Hmm.
um, so that touched my heart very deeply because I really want to, not only is the book about domestic abuse, which touched a lot of people's lives, one important thing for me mostly is suicide, just because that touched a lot of part of my life. And so that was sad to see that, the whole coronavirus kind of put an end to that for now.
Yeah.
But I feel like pretty soon it's going to be opening back up again. We'll be able to have, there were supposed to be music events, raising money for suicide awareness and all
Yeah.
that. So hopefully that all starts back up again.
Okay. Yeah. Absolutely. And I think, we're all on the right track. I'm fully vaccinated, and the me and the wife were like hell bent on getting fully vaccinated, and I think it's allowing folks finally get back out there, kind of get back to this new normal. But again, every generation, every 10 years, post 9/11, tech ramped up, 1,000-fold. And now with this, tech ramped up 1,000-fold again, and medical industry, it was just really charging forward to prevent this, that, and the other thing. And then you got tech, and you got virtual this, and I mean, Fortnite, the video game Fortnite, people are having EDM clubs and EDM parties just in Fortnite, live virtual reality from the comfort of your basement and all that stuff. And just seeing the innovativeness and folks thinking outside the box. How can we still stay active, stay productive, stay creative,
Right.
stay close, stay connected?
Right.
And yeah,
I just still think it's important to have human contact a lot too.
of course. Yeah.
Right? But in the pinch, we had the Zoom and we had everything.
Yeah.
But I definitely feel there's nothing more than having the human, the contact with people personally.
Yeah.
And I think helps our mental capability a
Yeah.
little bit better.
We're at the end of June here,
Yeah.
but for me, I think starting in June, after having been fully vaccinated for, I want to say, 4 months now, here it is June, and some folks that I work with, they're vaccinated, some aren't. But I would just go in and say, hey, are we good with a handshake now? And
Mm.
and just about everyone was like, yeah, sure, why not? Handshakes, full on handshakes. It's not like that half handshake hug
Yeah.
kind of thing. And I'm like, and they're like, oh, we're going back to that. I'm like, I am. If you're fine with it, I'm
Get it back.
definitely doing that. You know,
Absolutely.
I miss that. That's what I miss. I'm a hugger with people that I'm very close with. I'm definitely a handshaker with
Yeah.
colleagues, and
Yeah.
yeah, and colleagues, and friends and stuff like that. So that's that was my biggest thing. Is all right, we're back to that. I think things are starting to look good again. But what's next on the agenda? What's the next set of plans, next set of goals for the next 6 months to a year?
Excellent.
What's next on the agenda for Jenga?
So my next set of goals, actually, I set one thing for myself is live life to the fullest. I went to Florida just recently and I was taking yoga class and they say, your Monastery. And I was like, oh, what is mine? I was like, oh, it's live life to the fullest. Like, so I think one thing I learned is just to find out what's important to you. Find out what's important to you to make yourself happy. So that's one thing I've been trying to live by. I recently quit one of my jobs. Like I've been trying to be stress free a little bit more, enjoy life a little bit more, and what's important to family, what's important to friends. And I think that goes along with the whole coronavirus thing.
Hmm.
But one of my goals, I'm so proud of the book, The Shattered Oak. It's one of my great accomplishments. Like I said, I never thought it would be me telling this true story, but ever since I was a young child, I always thought it should be a movie. Um, so that is my goal, actually. I've done really well as far as selling the book. I'm totally happy in its place because the place of the Shattered Oak is to help a lot of group counseling, and it has been placed, which I feel so grateful about, in different group settings. A lot of counseling centers use it. They use it as a tool to bring out people's stories, bring out their backgrounds. And because, like I said, it touches so many aspects of life, it actually touches a lot of people's lives. So no matter what your ground is, it usually comes full circle, and they can use this book as a tool. So I can't be any happier with that. And I think my mother would be very happy with that. that it's used as a tool for counseling, to help those who need to be helped. So I truly, that's like my first place. I don't, my first reward was that I got into counseling centers. So on LinkedIn, I really reached out to therapists, to counseling centers, to suicide centers.
Hmm.
Um, so I've been really fortunate in that aspect, that my book has been used for that. And that's really all that I could ask for.
That's outstanding. Yeah,
That's, I just want to help, because of the suicide aspect or the mental health, the depression, the domestic violence people go through, and how much it has helped to bring out their stories. And it, in the end of the book, I won't give away once again the ending, but it does shed light on how we all can, overcome different obstacles in life, and how we could take the negative into a positive. Some people takes a little bit longer of a road than others, but that was one of my main accomplishments during this whole thing. Um, so that was huge. So I just have to say my next goal is really honestly is to get it into film. I do have two big film companies looking at it right now. They said to be patient because of coronavirus.
right.
I'm hoping one day, that it just gets into a story, because it is, I know everybody says their book is unique, but this book is just a little bit more unique in a sense that this person went through this, and she was one of the very first persons to go through what she had, and the accomplishments that she has, and how she found positive light at the end, and how we all can take our lives in different aspects, of positivity. So, not everybody's life is the same, and we all should respect everybody
Of course.
for
Yeah.
whatever they go through. And it's a learning curve on everybody's different backgrounds. And I think we could all take everybody's background, and we can learn and turn that all around into a positive spin. So that's what the whole Shattered Oak is about, is taking this tree that was once bright and beautiful and vibrant and flowers. And as the narrator goes through her life, the tree starts to deteriorate, just like the woman in the story. And as the oak dies, so doesn't the person, so to speak. You know what I mean? But yet then she turns it all back around, as you see in the end of the story. But I grew up in a very dysfunctional home. I think a lot of people from my era has. I'm 50 years old. So I think, our era was a lot different than the younger generation now.
Yeah.
Now is the more entitled generation. I came back from, the generation that you're just grateful for what you had. It might not be much, but you find gratefulness.
Yeah.
I can't be any happier, because why not find little things to be grateful for? So it's kind of how I live my life. My father was a great preacher. Um, he was preached to us that you always think positive, you never think negative. So once again, I think your guidance from your parents plays a big part of who you are today, right?
Yeah.
So you might not always have the guidance you need in certain areas, but if you can get a little bit of guidance from your parents in certain areas, it kind of helps throughout your life. So I was definitely, through the absence of some things, I was lucky to have the guidance of my father preaching that, always think positive, never think negative, and you can accomplish anything you want. And it's so true. Like, even with my book, I never thought I could be a writer, but yes, I was good in English. But did I ever think about writing a book? No. But um, I took a lot of my writing skills. My best friend taught me, she showed me the books to read that were very fun to read, and why I wanted to read them. And I learned I like to read when I can feel it, hear it, smell it, taste it. And if they didn't catch me within the first 2 pages of the book, I didn't want to read the book. So I think I got a taste of what I like to read, and I'm a very picky reader. So how I wrote was a lot how I like to read, if
Mhm.
that makes sense.
Yeah, and you touched upon something. I'm not too younger than you. And when I was growing up, my parents were workers, blue collar,
Sure.
maybe
Yeah.
slightly above blue collar.
Yeah.
My parents, my aunts and uncles, a lot of them were very much like that, where um and even my grandparents would say to me, you got to find a job with a good pension and
That was
and
smart.
like am I gonna like the job? Because my parents, I don't want to throw them under the bus too much, but let's, I think my parents want to do something else. I'm pretty sure
Oh,
but
because
I'm pretty sure a lot of my generation's parents hated
yeah.
their jobs.
Okay. Yeah.
You know
That's
that,
actually sure.
they just sucked it up because they're making enough, and then they pass that on to their kids. You got to get a good job. What is a good job versus a great career that you love?
It's more important to like do something that you love.
I mean,
100%, hands
you,
down.
you make 250,000 a year, and you're working, 6 12-hour days, and you hate life.
Right.
Or, you're making 60 or 70 a year, but you love what you do.
So much.
You talk about it all the time. You're excited to go to work.
Yeah.
You pass, and so when you go home, you're not a curmudgeon asshole to your wife and kids, or to your husband and kids. You go home excited to see him. I had such an amazing day. Tell me about your day. Let me tell you about my day.
Right.
And you can bond. You bond better with folks. You're so excited to do. Me as an actor. I mean, there were some shit paid jobs,
Yeah.
shit paid jobs. But then a month or two later, like, hey babe, check that out, I'm on TV. Oh my God. And she's like, hey, there's daddy, like, to the kid, there's daddy. And eventually, if you just stick with what you love to do, you will move up. You will get those supporting roles. You'll get way better paying roles. You get way better paying gigs, and you can start living comfortably, like, some of the celebrities do, if not the B
Yeah.
some of the B celebrities do. But they live comfortably and they love doing what they're doing. Um,
Absolutely.
but I think that was always dumped on by our parents,
Mhm.
maybe by our generation. You got to work, you go to work. And I'm like, yeah, you got to put in work, but you put in work to what you love to do. That's the difference. If you love it, you'll put even more work into it. But
Mhm.
if you're, and no offense to anybody that does these jobs and appreciates these jobs, but for me, being a data analyst or being an administrative assistant, I'm not really going to put I'm not going to put 100% into it because I don't give a shit about it.
Right. Right. Yeah. You want to care about it.
And I think, like, I'm pretty sure, I had this quote, this great quote, the first thing that reminded me is, like, we had family members always dumping on what we wanted to do. But of course I can't find the freaking quote. Okay, well, I can remember the quote. I can't remember who said it, but the quote is, children see magic in everything because they look for it.
Interesting. Yeah.
And at some point, we gave up looking for the magic in things, and it became pushing boxes, pushing pencils, shredding papers, printing. I mean, and that's all great, and I'm not knocking those industries, but you know, sh- you know, uh, driving a bus back and forth. I mean, that's a noble profession, but I think there are folks out there that love doing that because they'll find the greatness in that. They just meet strangers on the bus by being a bus driver. But I think there are kids, for me, I still watch Marvel movies, DC movies, Star Wars movies because I still enjoy that magic. I've always found if there is such thing as magic on this planet, real magic that exists, it's filmmaking.
Yeah.
Because in such a way, in your eyes, does Luke Skywalker and Princess Leia, in a way, do they actually exist? You see what I'm saying? Like
Right.
they kind of actually exist. You know their backstory. They almost in such a way exist through the magic of filmmaking, through cinema, through CGI special effects and all that stuff. That magic has created, these things that in a way do exist. I mean, obviously they don't exist in our real world, but in such a way they do exist, and that is the true
Oh.
magic of filmmaking.
Mhm.
And that's why I just stuck with it, and I 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 turned it into a professional career. And it was hard. It sucked for some years, but eventually it happened. Um, but yeah, that's the biggest thing is for me. Yeah, find a job, but find a job that you love to do. Stick with it. Don't quit, because if you quit, chances are you didn't really want to do it.
100%.
Yeah.
It was time. We all know when it's time,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
When you hit that wall, you know it's time to give up and move on to something else that makes you feel good in life,
Yeah. Absolutely.
right?
So
Time is short. You
the,
never know.
absolutely. Time is short.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's worried about dying, but my biggest advice is how about you worry about living?
Oh, 100. Yeah, every day.
I
Think about
mean,
all the fun things you could do.
all the time wasted sitting in front of a TV. I mean, I do that because I want to watch other people's work and be inspired and then come up with some of my own ideas. So that's kind of homework to me to an extent, but it's also about, can't worry about living. You gotta focus on, you can't worry about dying. You gotta focus on living,
100%.
get out there, see sights, meet people.
Yeah. Do everything on your bucket list.
Yeah. The bucket list. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now that I'm 50, I got that bucket list. I'm
Oh,
like, I better get.
already? You're too young. Nah, bullshit, bullshit. You're too young for a bucket list. Don't start a bucket. Well, well, hell, why not? I think I kind of have a bucket list. I'm just not. Well, I'm just not accepting that I'm not. I won't accept the fact. I won't call it a bucket list because I'm not accepting. Maybe that is. I don't know. But so like I mentioned before. We're close to the end of the June now. I always mention this with most of my guests. Quarantine happened March 12th for us in Maryland. So it wasn't January 1st that was kind of a new year for me. It was more March, was like the new year. Here we are, 1 year
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
of COVID and quarantine. So that was kind of like the new year. Now here we are, June. So it's like, what is that? A month and a year, 1 year, 3 months. When I say to you, what's the new year, new you, the new normal, new year, new you? What comes to mind when I say what's the new you?
Oh gosh. I just want to have fun, enjoy life, take it all in. Once again, feel grateful for what I have and just live every moment for every moment.
Yeah,
And the new me is just put all this other stuff behind us, all the negativity and, you know, maybe shut off our TVs and just move forward just with our own personal lives and not what society always expects from us. That's just my perspective.
yeah, okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I can't agree with you more. Like not only living, and you kind of touched upon this before. Like we're boxed in with this judgmental stuff, and we always prejudge mental illness. We always prejudge this, prejudge that. And I think people are boxed in by their own. Well, what came to my mind, and it might be a little bit off subject, but I brought this up before. Oh, I remember, like, again, growing up, and we we come from an older generation where we had to battle older generations biases, prejudices, misunderstandings. And one day I woke up, I think it was 25, 26, and I would just say to, older family members, like, so and so, that actor on that show, he's gay, isn't he? I'm like, why do you give a shit?
Right, doesn't matter.
Like, but I'm too busy to
Right.
worry. I'm too busy to worry about, you know,
Little things in life.
little things like that. Like, oh,
Doesn't
I'm,
matter.
I remember,
Worry about your own self is
you know,
how I
actually, yes, actually, absolutely. Worry about yourself, but
worry about,
go
yeah.
get a hobby. Go get,
Right, right.
go to
Find
work.
something
Just
to
go
do.
to work, man. Because now I think about it, and this is always one of the first things that come to my mind, especially during quarantine. All those new ads started coming out. All those uh, adverts made with iPhones. People were doing a lot of adverts on Zoom with their phones. And there was a lot of mixed race couples. There was a lot of same sex couples. And someone said to me, man, all these commercials that I'm seeing, I'm watching Hulu and I'm seeing all these commercials. I mean, they're really trying to shove the LGBTQ thing down my throat and the new progressive thing down my throat. And I said, dude, who the hell's watching commercials?
Right,
You remember when we were a kid, the commercial would come on, we walk away.
right.
Nowadays, I watch Hulu. Me and the wife watch Hulu all the time, and the commercial comes on, and you can't skip that commercial. We walk away. We go to the kitchen. Who the hell is watching the commercials?
Yeah, just
And it's like these people have nothing going on in life.
yeah,
They just want to like bitch and moan about this,
everything.
bitch and moan about everything because
I
they
think
have,
in our generation too, right? The older we were, things were just different. We had to take care of ourselves and learn how to take care of ourselves
yeah,
and fight, fight for whatever, just regular life. And, we got to go back to worrying about how do you just adapt to your everyday life and not everybody else's problems. Just take on your own. And,
yeah.
you know,
But like
there's,
you, but like you said, like I'm not worried about. I got so much stuff. I got a podcast guest every other day,
yeah.
and then I got to edit the stuff, and then I'm trying to work on some
Work on
scripts,
yourself, right? You always got to work on yourself about
and
everything, everybody
I
else.
ain't worried about. I
Yeah.
do not care. Like some people will say to me, like, "Yeah, but don't you have a problem?" I'm like, dude, I don't care.
No,
I got a wife and a kid. That's enough.
right.
not to mention, not to
Yeah.
mention, yeah.
You should just care about, you're focusing on what's important to you at the most present time.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well,
Mm.
touching upon that, if there was one last bit of advice, one last point you want to make, one last bit of advice, what would that be?
Would it be about the corona or would it be about what?
Whatever you want. If there was, if you want to leave, you know, whatever
No,
10, whatever 10, 15 viewers are there watching, I'm, my YouTube channel, but hopefully there's more. But if there was, on whatever you want to leave advice on, if there was one point you wanted to leave to them, what would that be?
oh my gosh. You know what I live by? I live by always living by the positive attitude. I know I sound a little bit broken record in that, but for me, I think one thing you should always focus on is try to find out what makes yourself feel good, what makes yourself feel happy. Because if you make yourself feel happy, you can make everybody else happy. You can help others. I strive to help others. I try to inspire others. I don't think there's a lot of people in the world that like I know even I meet so many people in the world and I love a lot of people that I meet, but there's not a lot of people who inspire me.
Mhm.
There's very few that take the time to help or be your mentor in life. Um so one thing I cherish is for I have very few who do it, but I think we all should try to find ways to help other people feel good about things that make them happy. So if we could all learn to be not each other's cheerleader, that sounds a little bit corny, but ways to help others make them feel good, feel good about yourself. In every situation, I know there's tons, I've come across millions of bad situations in my own life. My own life hasn't been perfect, but I really, really try to find the positive in everything. And how can we make it better? What can we do to strive to, I just, to feel good about ourselves. And if you really are happy of who you are, no matter who puts you down, you can achieve anything in life. So, success, I'm one of those ones that feel my father was a huge success, always try to strive for success. So, I'm kind of that way too in different ways. So find ways that make you feel good, how to make others feel good, how to be successful in yourself or help others be successful. If you know knowledge that can help somebody further their career, give advice, right? It's
Hell
free.
yeah.
Help out. Do your part in life. So that's kind of how I live. And I'm always grateful, I guess. Like, if I'm feeling low about myself or I don't feel good about myself for the day, I try to always remind myself, well, what is there good about? What's great? What is there grateful about? And there's so many things to be grateful about. And you could think of the most ridiculous thing, and then all of a sudden you're like, wow, I have it. Some people don't even have this. So that's a beautiful thing in life.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I never try to think negative, I guess. I try to always, I know it sounds corny, and a lot of people say, oh, I hate the people who are so positive. But honestly, if you could just think positive about yourself and think positive about your situation, I think you could turn every bad situation into a good situation.
Yeah. As a performer, well, as a professional, as a parent, husband, family man, as a professional and creative, I always try to find the pros in everything.
Yeah.
But as a performer, you try to find comedy, you want to be funny. And I've found that a lot of my humor is being so self-indulgent. I know that's not the right word. Oh, to comedically be negative. And you just, if you're stuck in this shitty situation and you just dump on it, but in such a way that, you come off sarcastic. It's all about your performance, really. There's been a couple of times I do that and people are rolling. People think it's hilarious. I've done it on the show before, and you just dumping on this situation like, what the hell is going on? Why are we here when why are we doing this here when we
Make
could be
people
doing
laugh.
this there? Huh?
And to make people laugh, you
Yeah,
mean?
and the point is to be humorous and comedic, but it's also like venting. Also, it's kind of
Yeah,
therapeutic in such a
yeah,
way.
yeah,
But then,
yeah. Find ways to make yourself feel good. Yours is comedy, I could tell,
yeah,
right?
but then you always have to close out with like, the hey, listen, we're here, we did it, we knocked this out, we're almost home, we're almost wrap production. This is going to come out great. We're going to have such fun, stories to tell. But you always look for the pros. You always look for
Absolutely.
realistically, like physically, like in that moment, you look for the pros. But there's definitely plenty of good times to just, indulge in that self-deprecation, in that venting of the situation, but do it in a comedic way, in a sarcastic way, like, because really we have to like make the best of it. So
Hmm.
let's make fun of it, and then let's make the best of it and find the pros in it, sort of. I don't know if I'm making sense, but
No, I no, you totally do. And you get
yeah,
your out of the whole thing. And it helps others to move forward. So that's good. No. Yeah, and it's funny. Absolutely.
yeah. All right. Well, Sherry Jenga, I can't thank you enough for coming on. The Shattered Oak. Oh, wait a minute. What the heck just happened there? Okay. The Shattered Oak, Overcoming Domestic Abuse and a Misdiagnosis of Mental Illness. It's on Amazon, Kindle, audiobook, perfect paperback. Um, Barnes and Noble, theshatteredoak.com. Man, what else we got here? Book, looks like you got some skyrocketed book reviews. And yeah, Sherry, huh?
Yeah, it's amazing. It's so awesome. I've had reviews from India, Australia. I can't be any more blessed and grateful that people around the world, especially like psychiatrists and therapists, their thoughts and their views of how they never viewed their patient in the way that they end up after reading the book, and they say, wow, I never really thought of my patient that way. And
Yeah.
I kind of wish I did, because mental illness, everybody thinks and acts differently.
Awesome. Sherry, author of The Shattered Book, mother of two, wife. I can't thank you enough so much for coming on, sharing your stories and your successes with me, and your uh, COVID quarantine survival stories and all that stuff. So it was
Like,
it was a blast. I definitely plan to have you back on like a roundtable thing with some other guests, kind of like in a roundtable deal, and we'll definitely see what's coming down the pike from there.
all right, sounds like a plan. I appreciate it very
Aw-
much. Ken. It was a
Awesome.
pleasure on your show.
It was
You
a
keep
pleasure. I'm gonna try. I'm gonna
Yep,
try.
that comedian, just keep going.
You got it. You got
That's
it.
right.
Well, it was a blast having you on. And until next time, to my viewers, you know what to do. To the viewers out there, if you want to become an honorary member of the Zombie Squad, send me some, hit me up on any of the socials. Send me the name that you want to be credited as a honorary member of Zombie Squad. Send me your favorite one or two profile pictures, avatars, what have you, your profile pictures on Instagram, Facebook, whatever, and we can squad you up. I will make you an honorary member of the Zombie Squad, and I'll design all the stuff. I'll design a T-shirt. I'll design your logo, your whole Zombie Squad kind of profile. If you want to be an honorary member of Zombie Squad, and give you the options to buy a T-shirt, to buy a phone case, to buy a pillow, to buy a tapestry, to buy a hoodie, to whatever the hell you want. But if you want to be an honorary member of the Zombie Squad, let me know. And
but they got to put in the work though.
All they have to do is send me one or two of their profile pics, and they'll be an honorary member of the Zombie Squad.